And good morning, good evening, wherever you may be around the nation, around the world. You are listening to The Supernatural Realm on WCETradio.com, also known as WCETFM.com. You can find our archives on WCETFM.com. And we're just about everywhere, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and everywhere else you can find podcasts in the world. So welcome to the show, and I got great guests tonight. I got Deliverance Minister Bill Bean and our good friend Travis Shortt. Hello, guys. How are you doing this evening?
Brother Tim, great to be back with you.
It's great to be talking to you again. What's that, Travis?
It's an absolute pleasure to be back on the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to be back with friends and good company. So,
Absolutely.
Especially in the times that we're in. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's just we could spend the entire show just talking about that. It's just very sad. I continue to pray for peace and for an answer. And unfortunately, I think the only answer that's going to come, Tim, probably sooner than later, is going to come from God himself. If people don't get it together soon, we are heading to a point of no return very quickly.
Yeah, it's sad. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. It may even last into the new year. I don't know, but yeah, we're definitely praying that a lot of things will get worked out and good things will come out in the end for sure.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. And if people would just pause for a moment and just take a step back and say, okay, let's abide by this. Let's treat others how we would like to be treated. And if people could do that, then suddenly the world becomes a better place overnight. But people, they just can't seem to grasp that, and that's where the selfishness aspect comes in of things. And the devil is always in those types of details. He doesn't care if you believe in him or not. He wants you to be puffed up in yourself and not have anything in the way of compassion or decency or respect or morals or anything like that. He just he stays in the shadows. He assigns demons to every person, in my opinion, because he mimics everything that God does. So God, in my opinion and belief, assigns angels to every single person. Well, the devil, again, mocking God, he assigns demons to every person too, and they just look for openings. And this is why we are where we are now, because I feel that the frequency and the vibration has come down due to, again, God allowing the devil to be doing what he's doing right now in the world, and that has left a lot of people vulnerable and wide open to demonic attack. And this is why I'm so busy now. As a spiritual warrior deliverance minister, so many people are in need.
It seems like, that seems to be the thing now. More and more people are needing help. The veil is thinning, and these things are coming out of the woodwork.
I totally agree. And boy, again, Travis was on with Kev Baker and I on the Warrior Mode show on Sunday, and man, he just hit a home run with his presentation about the Mothman. And in my opinion, Tim, that creature, that entity, factors into all of this.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you think that was brought on by some force, some negative force?
In my opinion, I think that the Mothman entity is a fallen angel, some sort of fallen angel, and it as far as Travis knows, it is not seen frequently in that area anymore. However, it is seen and witnessed very prominently these days, currently, in the Chicago area and the surrounding Midwestern states and areas. So it's still very, very prominent. It's just in a different area now.
Yeah, we have a Mothman type creature here in our county. I actually seen it.
I believe it.
I actually seen it some years back, and I thought I was seeing things. It was standing in the road right in front of me. It had wings, red, piercing, glowing eyes, and the thing was just, it must have been 7-8 foot tall. I mean, this thing was ugly. And by the time I drove up upon it, it just vanished. There was real thick brush and some wooded area that was on the side of the road, and the thing just disappeared. I just saw no traces of it going into the brush or anything. It's like the thing vanished.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt it for 1 second. And again, Also, think about the Jersey Devil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's still sightings of the Jersey Devil there in that area, New York, New Jersey area, even parts of Connecticut from time to time. So, again, this is my opinion. I really believe that the Mothman entity and even the Bigfoot Sasquatch creatures, they are supernatural. They're every bit as supernatural as they are in the physical manifestation.
Yeah, exactly. Travis, you had recently been back to see the area. What was it like?
You know, I did. I went back this past weekend with my daughter and three of her friends. Since my daughter Leah turned 16 this past a week ago today, as a matter of fact, and the only thing she really wanted was a trip to Point Pleasant to go see where Dad had spent about 6 years of his life while producing Darkwing's The Mothman Chronicles. So I took her and three of her friends up. It's the first time I had been back since 2009 when we premiered the Darkwings documentary at the State Theater. So a lot had changed in 11 years. A lot had not changed. But was able to talk to a few folks that I had known over the years, Jeff Walmsley and Jeremy there at the Mothman Museum. A lot of things were no longer there. The State Museum or the State Theater where we premiered the film has been shut down and is up for sale. The Iron Gate restaurant where we did the after party, that has also been shuttered and is up for sale. And then we also saw that Harris's Steakhouse, Carolyn Harris, who had played such a prominent role in getting the Mothman Festival off the ground and organizing that in 2001. She passed away a couple of years ago, so the Harris Steakhouse was empty. It was funny seeing Point Pleasant for the first time through my daughter's eyes. And the stories that she asked, and we went to Twindley Park, and we went to the River Amphitheater, and we went to the TNT area, and the questions and the comments and the theories that she and her friends were coming up with was really refreshing and really interesting because, for 6 solid years, I did a lot of interviews just like this all over the country, including Coast to Coast AM with George Noory on several occasions, talking about Mothman and talking about the town of Point Pleasant. So to re-experience it for the first time through her eyes and through the eyes of her friends was really kind of a refreshing take on the whole mythos of Mothman.
That's really awesome. Had the area changed much since you were last there?
Not a lot. Economic development's still very slow there in Point Pleasant, unfortunately. But we talked about this Sunday night. Of course, the statue of Mothman there about halfway on Main Street. And depending on your ideology as to what Mothman is, and my personal theory has always been that it's not a cryptid, it's not a missing link, it's not an animal type of manifestation. It is a spiritual manifestation. It is an entity that has manifested itself in Point Pleasant. And for the town to have this statue, the first person I had this conversation with was Dr. Ellie Marzulli, who's author of the Nephilim Trilogy, and now has a series of DVDs out, the Watchers series. And we discussed what it means to a town to erect such a statue in honor of something that might be ominous, that might be malicious, and that might be dangerous. And, are they then deifying a demonic entity by erecting the statue? And it's actually, in some ways, it's ironic and kind of funny when you look at that argument and that discussion in light of the current climate in the country where they're wanting other statues torn down. You have in West Virginia a petition to actually replace Confederate soldier statues with statues of Mothman all over the South, which I actually think would almost be funny.
Wow.
What can you say? I mean, it's just anything is possible in today's world because law and order has gone out the window, so it is now lawlessness that reigns. And again, so pretty much anything that you can imagine in your mind can be possible nowadays.
Yeah, they're ripping down statues and everything. It's horrible. It's like they want to erase our history.
Well, not only that, there's also an agenda, and let me say this: I am not racist. I love all people. God has worked through me to help people from all different races and backgrounds, and you name it, and I will continue to do that. I wish, again, that everybody would take pause and stop this, because what this is it's coming from the devil himself, but there are underlings to the devil, and they are the overlords of the power elite, and they are pumping this agenda on the masses. This is not about race. This is not about anything other than division. So the author is devil is the author of division and confusion, and that's exactly what we're experiencing right now, not just in America, but around the world also. So this is a concerted effort to divide and conquer the people.
Yeah, we got in this discussion quite a bit with Chip, and the elites seem to be growing as we speak, and there seems to be no end to their motives of fear and control.
Travis, do you want to answer?
I'm sorry. No, I'll let you. I'll defer
Sure.
that one to you. What I was going to say was, I do find historically it's interesting that Mothman made an appearance in 1966,
Right.
At the height again of racial tension in this country.
That is very interesting. And again, if what I believe, in my opinion, is true, that this entity is in fact a fallen angel, then it would make perfect sense that you would have, and it's not just one, make no mistake, and Travis stated this on the show Sunday, and he's right. There are many. It's not just one entity here. We're talking about many, and they're everywhere. And just as this Bigfoot Sasquatch creatures are everywhere. So I find that interesting that, like he's saying, that in times of crisis and in times of great divide and upheaval, these entities seem to be there and seem to make their presence known. So whatever the case may be, we are living in a time like no other. And again, as I stated earlier, I firmly believe that if somebody doesn't do something soon, we're going to get past the point of no return, and it is going to get ugly, and I don't want to see it. That's for sure. I want peace.
Yeah, exactly. There's even been an increase in UFO sightings in the last 4 years.
Yes. And again, to me, that's indicative of what is taking place here. And so this is anything and everything that you can imagine coming into the mix. Now, think about this. Probably 10 years ago, you would have stories come along, and look, there's always been disturbing stories. There has always been struggle and strife in the world, and there have been people calling for the end of the world since pretty much the beginning of time. I understand that. However, just take a look at today. So 10 years ago, you would have these stories once in a while, and even 20 years ago, again, once in a while. But now, so much is going on in our nation and around the world that it's a 24/7 thing. We can't even keep up with the amount of news and information that is coming in seemingly by the hour.
Yeah, it's just thank God for internet, right? Because there's just so much news being produced out there. Even the news that's not making the mainstream media. I mean, there's so much going on now.
Yeah, Travis, wouldn't you concur with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Bill. I think what we're seeing in this country is this inciting of hatred across the board, and I do think it stems from from a very spiritual and a very sinister place that is trying to divide a country and to destroy a great democracy, a great republic.
I totally agree. I see it. I see it very clearly. And I just wish others could see it. I wish they could take a step back. So this is why in the Bible, we're told to guard our minds, guard our hearts as well, but really use our minds to be the guide. So our connection with God is through our mind, which bleeds in to the spirit and the body as well. But this here, what the New Agers call the third eye, the pineal gland, I believe is the main communication device with God, that it's almost like an antenna that we have, and this is our communication source, and the devil, he tries to distort that. So he does not want us to have a strong connection with God or have communication with God. So this is why we are where we are, in part because people are not using, they don't have or don't desire to have a real and authentic relationship with God. B, in that they're certainly not using their connector to connect with God. And then C, they are led by emotion, which comes from the heart. The heart can be corrupted, and when we are led by our heart and our emotions, disastrous things can take place, and that's part of the problem that we are seeing right now currently.
Including seeing beings from the fifth dimension.
Well, that could start, yeah, and it's interesting because there is an uptick in that as well. In some of the case files, some of the clients that are contacting me are having just some outrageous things taking place. So this is why I said a couple of minutes ago, pretty much anything is possible now. Anything that you could imagine in your mind seemingly could be possible.
Yeah, like you said, Bill, it almost seems like the evil one, the devil, is making your third eye blurry, and so you don't see the truth, so you don't see the real, you don't see God for who he is and how great and wonderful he is.
Yeah. And then, he's trying to distort and separate that connection. So if we are truly making God first, then our connection is like this. But the devil, he wants to pull that apart and distort the connection. Therefore, the person will start to think that God has abandoned them. Their life is beyond repair. Why has God done this to me? Just an endless amount of suffering. And the person feels like they have a black cloud over their head. I can't tell you how many hundreds of people have come to me with those types of scenarios and situations, and God has worked through me to help them, and not only help them, but to renew their covenant. So as part of my deliverance for these people, as a man of God, a priest for God, I have to also renew the person's everlasting covenant with God. So that is absolutely a part of the deliverance. And that way we have reestablished the connection with God, and then by the power of God have that person to be freed from all evil and curses, hexes, vexes, and spells, whatever it may be, and strongholds or whatever else. Then the person is set free and they're back on high frequency and vibration, because the all life operates on frequency and vibration. And if we're on high, life is good, life is positive, we're moving forward. But if we're on low, life sucks. There's always a problem, a drama, an issue, and never an answer. So the devil knows this, and he is a master manipulator, and he knows what to do, and he knows what to bring into a person's life to separate them from God, and then to make them to think that they are beyond redemption and forgiveness.
And if they have some
Bill,
go ahead, Travis.
I'm sorry. I have to interject something. We're having this conversation, and Bill, you, of course, being an ordained minister and a deliverance minister, you used a term that would have probably a decade ago gotten you stoned and dragged out of a church.
Yeah.
And you referred to the third eye. The third eye.
Yeah.
I have said for decades that what we have been talking about for hundreds of years, such as clairvoyance, the supernatural, those sixth sense, those heightened senses, that is our connection to a higher power, to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That if you read and believe the literal interpretation of the scriptures, then according to Genesis, when God formed man and formed woman, but when he formed mankind, he breathed into mankind the breath of life, and the scriptures say he became a living soul. If that is the case, then there is an inherent spirituality, a duality, a connection that mankind has with this higher creator.
Correct.
Now, I will go a step further. For years, having grown up in an evangelical Christian home and environment, as we talked about Sunday night, people kept talking about the next Great Awakening. There was the first Great Awakening in the 1700s. There was the second Great Awakening. And everyone in the religious circles are expecting a religious awakening. They're expecting some type of church movement, some type of religious movement. I don't think that's what is going to be happening this time around. There is a reawakening of our spiritual consciousness with this Creator.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. And furthermore, I'm sorry to say this, what I'm about to say, but it's true. A good deal of today's churches have fallen by the wayside anyway, and they're not going to teach any kind of truth. They're going to teach a cookie-cutter version of it because they are all about getting your money. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's what it is. So they'll give you a cookie-cutter feel-good message. And if you, and I've had many clients come to me saying that they went to their pastor in some of these types of churches, and the pastor would quickly usher them away and say, well, what do you want me to do? I'm not trained in that. I can't help you. And so there you go. So, I mean, just imagine when you're in spiritual dire straits and in your mind, you think the only person that you can go to in human form is your pastor or priest, and then they turn you away. I mean, that's crushing. Where do you go from there? So I'm thankful. Go ahead, Travis. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, no, I agree totally, and I'm not trying to make this necessarily a religious debate, but it's just so amazing to me when we start talking about UFO sightings, the fifth dimension, as Tim had mentioned, the third eye, these heightened senses that we have. I think what we're doing, I think people who develop and discover those are actually getting closer to God. Now, the problem with that, as you and I have talked in other conversations, is the more spiritual you become, the more susceptible you also become to other spiritual forces in that realm.
Correct. Absolutely. Because the devil doesn't want us to have a close and personal relationship with God. And furthermore, if someone is called, all men are created equal. No man's better than another, but God does put bigger callings on certain people. And people like that have the bigger calling will get the most resistance from the devil and his demons, because the devil does not want that person to be where God wants and needs them to be.
It's just like anything else, Bill. It's about discipline. You got to discipline yourself to, when you have these sort of abilities, as well as having a spiritual connection with God. It's a discipline.
I totally agree. And it's something for me that, and am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I claim to be? Never. But I try to do the best that I can do, and I try to be the best that I can be each and every day of my life. We're all human beings. We're in a sin-filled world, so we all fall short in some way, shape, or form. But my connection with God is real and authentic. God is truly first in my life. And so I have an automatic way of going about things in my day-to-day that I do not waver from. And the first thing that I do when I open my eyes is I thank God and praise God for the day, every day. And will do so for the rest of my life, because life is a gift. We're not promised tomorrow. So we really should thank God and praise God for the day and try and make the most of each and every day, because no man knows when his time is up on this earth. So we just trusted God for those things. His will be done. And so so that's the first thing that I do in my day. Then I get on my knees and pray, and then I keep a dialogue with God throughout the day. And the last things that I do, whether it's 4 a.m., I get to sleep, or 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., it doesn't matter, because I'm consistent in that as well. I say a spiritual warfare prayer, then I declare victory in each and every day, and will do so for the rest of my life. So that is the consistency for me that I will never, ever waver in, no matter what.
And it has to be consistent, because the moment that you stray away, bad things happen. Basically,
I agree.
you get angry
Yeah.
and people start attacking you, and then you respond negatively, and just things just start to spiral. So you gotta keep your walk with God at all times.
I am in total agreement, Tim, and that's the only way that I can live my life. And again, look, people could say whatever they want to say. There's people that claim to be Christians and they do nothing but spout one scripture after another, telling you what you have to do, what you need to do. Meanwhile, they're doing anything and everything under the sun, whether that is using drugs or drinking or whatever. So I find when people like that come to you and they're approaching you in that manner, they're hiding something. And so, and it's sad, and you just pray for them, but they are trying to cover up their own misdeeds, and I guess it's a way of perhaps even justifying their misdeeds by spouting off to other people. You need to do this, you need to do that, you have to do this, you have to do that, you're hellbound if you don't do this and that, and don't do as I do as I say. So that's pretty much how that goes.
I was in a relationship with a girl one time that her family was in the Pentecostal church, and her father said that exact same thing to me. I need to go to church. I need to spend more time in God. I need to go to the prayer meetings with them on each and every Wednesday, and go 3 times on Sunday. You know, he's pointing the finger at me saying I need it.
Well, see, again, no man can guide you in your relationship with God.
Right.
There is no man on this earth that's going to tell me I'm going to do something. If I don't want to do it, it's not going to happen. So God is the one that guides me in that, and I totally trust and rely on God to guide me in all my ways. And again, I will fall short because I'm in a sin-filled world and I'm not perfect, but I guarantee you I'll try to do the best that I can do and be the best that I can be each and every day of my life.
And these are the same people that sit in the second pew every Sunday in church. You know, it's like they're hiding something.
Well, these are what Jesus described as the Pharisees, and so Jesus had great disdain for that group, and so we have some of these modern day Pharisees like that. It's sad and unfortunate, and you just have to pray for them. But again, you know, Tim, that just as I stated, no man's going to guide you anywhere. You're going to allow God to guide you, and there's nothing that any man could say to you in that manner anyway, that you must do this or you have to do that. I would just say, look, strengthen your relationship with God and allow Him to guide you in your ways, and may He sharpen your holy discernment in all of your ways, and that's it. It would be wrong of me to say, Tim, you better do this, or you better do that, or not do this, or not do that. I don't have the right to do that, because that would be infringing on your personal relationship with God.
Travis, you have something to interject?
You know, I feel like I'm in church, but a good kind of church, not the bad kind. You know, I was sitting here, you know, looking back, and Bill knows, and Tim, I don't know if it has ever come up in our conversations and our interviews. But of course, I was an ordained minister for several years in the Southern Baptist denomination. Still ordained. They haven't come to retrieve that just yet, although I keep waiting for the knock on the door any minute. But I have discovered more spiritual revelation outside of a church building than I ever have inside one.
I can agree with that.
Conversations like this. And that's what I discovered, is I have a great love of discussion, debating, and dialogue when it comes to God and theology and spirituality and relationship. I'm just not a very good role model. And you have to be to lead, quote unquote, a church and a group. And Bill knows as well as I do, from the scripture standpoint, you have 2 terms for church. You know, it's translated church in every Bible, but there are 2 terms. One is the reference of a synagogue, which is a building. The other is ecclesia, which is the body. It's the gathering of people. It's a group of people of like mind, like faith, like passion, like spirit. The overwhelming majority of the time that church, quote unquote, is referenced in the Bible, in the New Testament, it is that reference. It is very seldom the building reference. It is always the like-minded gathering of people who have something to share, not just with one another, but with those around them, outside of that body.
I totally agree, and it's absolutely true, and it is something that has been lost. And what's really sad, and here's how it's easy for the people in those types of places and situations, and again, not all. There are some good churches out there and some great pastors and men of God. I'm not condemning everybody, but through my experience, believe me, in dealings, I know what I'm talking about here, and it's unfortunate. I wish it weren't true. A lot are corrupt now. And so it's very easy for them to be corrupt and manipulate because the world is made up of mostly followers. They're looking for somebody to show them the way. It's easier for them to just have a guy say, this is what you need to do, and this is how we do it. We're going to do it this way. It's much easier that way. And so therein lies the problem, that you have masses of people that are looking to someone to show them the way, and they are willing to put 100% trust into that person, and unfortunately it doesn't go so well sometimes, and it's just very, very sad and tragic at times as well.
Yeah, just like mainstream media, when you got governors, state governors that tell you, and businesses that tell you got to wear a mask before you enter the building, and you got to wear it in church, you got to wear it in amusement parks, people are going to do it because they're like sheep, and they're fearful, and the people will do anything when they're fearful.
Well, it's even more alarming than that, Tim, is that when the time comes, and I believe the time is coming sooner than later, when they introduce this vaccine and the chip, which will be the mark of the beast, the people are going to follow right along with it, and they're going to think men like us are crazy that try to warn them against it. They are going to do it, and they're going to do it in the millions, and that is the end game. There is no redemption after that. If a person takes that mark of the beast, they're cut off from God, and they become a part of that beast system, which they'll become, it's a transhumanism thing, and they'll become more of a machine than a person at that point. And literally, I've heard people like Elon Musk and Gates and others say that they want to try and devise a way to capture the soul out of the person and all this stuff and upload it and all these things. I mean, this is not stuff that's coming. This is stuff that is here, and people better wake up and see what's going on here. And I just urge people, you don't have to believe a word that I'm saying, but please do your research, dig into this, see what's going on, and more importantly, I pray that you will come back to God and make a real and personal connection with Him like ASAP.
Yeah, my grandmother. Go ahead, Travis.
I'm sorry. This is the problem with not being able to see each other. We end up stepping all over each other in these types of shows. I apologize.
That's all right.
I was going to say, I'll go a step further about that, Bill. I've got a friend, very good friend of mine, one of the first friends that I met when I moved to Southeast Kentucky. Her name's Tanya Charlton. She's in north of me on I-75 in Richmond, Kentucky, which is kind of a suburb of Lexington.
Yeah, I know where that place is.
She sent me a photograph today of the sky there. Someone in a plane had flown over Richmond, Kentucky, and in the sky had written, "Obey."
There you go. There you go. And I mean, this is, and I've talked about this before, and it's worth mentioning again. I always go back to the movie They Live, the Roddy Piper movie that was made in 1987 or 88.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, and I always go back to that, and I think we're living that right now. I really do. I think that, and again, back to, I had another thought, and Travis can corroborate this. This is an example of what some of the churches or church programming is like now. I would say it was probably 6 or 7 or more years ago, and Travis knows all about this because he was a part of the planning of this. Travis has been like an agent, business manager for me for years, and so he knew about this. The 700 Club had contacted me for an interview, and they sent a crew out to me and spent the day with me. seemed to be very impressed. I mean, we talked all day long. I shared my story with him, and it was, I don't know, it was in summer. I don't remember what year it was. Travis may remember, but it was at least 7 years ago. Wouldn't you think so, Travis?
Oh, honestly, I was just trying to track that down in my mind, Bill. You and I started talking and working together in 2011.
Yeah.
It was easily 2013, 2014, or it could have been 2000. It could have been 2012. I was in D.C. in 2012, and that may have been coming around whenever I was in D.C. consulting there, but it's easily been at minimum 7 years, if not 8.
Yeah. And so everything was great, and they again, had come out and spent the day with me. Then all of a sudden, we didn't hear from them. They said that, so I want to say that it was probably in July of whatever year that was. Let's just say 2014, 2013, maybe, somewhere in there. They said it was going to air in October. Well, October came and went. We didn't hear anything. And then I think one of the producers got back and said, oh, November. Well, November came and went. And then Travis had contacted them. And they got back and said, we're not going to air the segment because of Mr. Bean's involvement with UFOs.
Oh, you got to be kidding.
I remember. Oh, no.
And Travis made a press release. We posted it everywhere, what had happened. But that was their thing, Tim, and they just cut me off like you wouldn't believe and didn't want anything more to do with me after that. And it's sad and unfortunate because of the way God works for me to help people. I could have been a great help to many had I been on that broadcast, but due to their ways and I guess their beliefs or whatever it may be, that was it. And boy, I'll tell you, that was a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, because there's so much other information and so many other ways you help people other than your experiences with UFOs. But that doesn't surprise me coming from that group of people. That really doesn't.
Yeah, and boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, it's just it was an amazing, and it was embarrassing as well because I had told so many people about this, and people were really looking forward to tuning into that. I had so many, hundreds of people sending messages, oh yeah, we're going to tune in, and then when that didn't happen, I looked very foolish, but Travis sent out press releases, and we sent out the truth to the people that, hey, this is what happened. I mean, and we didn't try to hide what had taken place. There was no foul on my end anyway. I've had real and authentic experiences with UFOs for most of my life. It's the truth. So what am I gonna, what could I say? Or I told them the truth. Everything that they, asked and through the interview, I was truthful and shared my experiences. But yet, again, when it got back to the honchos or whatever, boy, that was the end of that.
Did Word FM?
Now, I will say this. Oh.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tim. It's your show, and I keep interrupting.
That's all right. I just wanted to ask Bill if Word FM in Pittsburgh ever got a hold of you, because I gave them your name at one point.
No, Word FM never did. Now, I did do a show in Pittsburgh. Actually, I think it was, I want to say maybe Butler. It was up on the mountaintop, and it was, they flew me in. It was a TV show, and it was a Christian Cornerstone TV.
Okay.
They had me on, and that was in 2011, and that went very well. And that was a real blessing, that show. I really enjoyed it. I remember the guy picking me up at the airport, and we just kept going up this mountain. It just kept going up and up and up, and the TV studio was on top of this mountain.
Yeah.
And but that went very, very well. But the other debacle, again, Travis can further elaborate on it.
That sounds like you were at Mount Washington in Pittsburgh. Probably where they were.
Is that what it was? It was beautiful wherever it was. Yeah. I was amazed at how I just, in the vehicle, it just kept winding upward, and I'll never forget that. And I actually flew in that day, did the show, and after the show, the driver took me back to the airport, and I flew out that evening right back. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little windy going up Mount Washington, so that's probably where you
Beautiful.
were. Yeah.
Well, it was a really, really beautiful place. But Travis, if you want to share anything else pertaining to the 700 Club, I'm sure you've got some vivid thoughts on that.
Well, what I was going to say was it's very interesting and ironic. About the same time, and this just goes to show the schism or the schism that exists between the spiritual worlds, the secular and the religious, the secular and the spiritual. Not only, Bill, did you get turned down by the 700 Club because of your stance on UFOs and your experiences with them. On the flip side of that, Dr. L.A. Marzulli, who's a friend and had been a client of mine for a while as well, was on the first season of Ancient Aliens with Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Yeah.
But was never invited back because his views of extraterrestrials and UFOs differed from those of Prometheus Productions. The same thing that we had with you, trying to get you picked up by Ancient Aliens to talk about UFOs, because you approach it from a spiritual angle and not an extraterrestrial angle. They don't want you. So individuals like you and Marzulli that are trying to actually explain what's happening, neither side wants to give you a platform to allow you to do so.
Absolutely correct. And boy, I'll tell you, that's just sad and unfortunate because, again, Travis is exactly right, Tim. If you don't fit their narrative, forget it. You're out. You're not. It's not. And this is furthermore, and Travis can corroborate this as well. I've had many offers in the past for TV series and starring in shows and movies and stuff like that. It never. Now, of course, I have done a bunch of TV, but I'm talking about starring in my own TV series. That never happened. And I've had several of those offers, and it never came to pass. And I'm convinced it didn't come to pass because I am someone that, A, is too real and authentic for what their narrative would be. B, non-compliant. Absolutely not. And it's not that I'm unkind to anybody. I'm kind to everybody, but I'm non-compliant in things that I know that are not right. And C, I just will not fit their agenda and their presentation of such an agenda. So there's just no way it can work. It's oil and water.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, you have standards.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
And I was going to say, how many, not just that, but how many times have we walked away from the negotiation table about licensing Dark Force for film option rights because they want to go a different direction with the movie than the way that things actually happen. So we have walked away from countless opportunities to see it come to fruition because they don't want to tell the story.
It's true.
They want to muddy the water.
Tim, that's exactly what has taken place. So at this point, if that never happens, okay, praise God. I'm okay with that because I'm not going to compromise and I'm not going to allow that to be mocked or turned into something that is really so far away from the truth that it's pointless in the first place. It'd be pointless to even show it or even say there was a part of it because it's not, based on facts.
Yeah. Travis, have you guys looked into doing like an independent film with an independent film director? Because I know a few. I know one very closely up in Buffalo that I can put you in contact with.
We are open to any dialogue that would get Dark Force on the screen. Bill and I have even toyed with the idea of a Kickstarter or GoFundMe campaign so that we have complete control of the film being produced, raise enough money to produce it, and do it the way that Bill wants to see it done, as instead of relinquishing the creative and the producing rights to someone who will take it a different direction, which is what always happens. It always ends up going a different direction than what Bill wants told. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a contact, yes, put them in touch with me, and I will be more than happy to open a dialogue there.
Because I think an independent film director would be more than willing to produce something that you guys want, rather than somebody out in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. And yeah, and it got me to the point where I was so discouraged. I thought, you know what, this is just, I just can't do it. I don't mix with that kind of thing. They don't mix with me. I don't want a story that, I mean, it happened. It's real. It happened, and it affected me and my family as well. I don't want it to be muddied in that way to where it's just almost like a parody and unrecognizable. I just can't do it. So that would be great if there were some alternative and someone that would be willing to give it a look and then possibly be interested. Fantastic.
Yeah, I know a couple people, and I'll definitely put them in contact with you and Travis.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Because
Thank you very much. Yes.
I think you guys have an amazing story, and a lot of people would benefit from seeing a film like that and seeing what you went through.
And my vision always has been, yes, it's a disturbing story. Horrible, terrible things happen, yes. But I want the ultimate message to be a message of hope and faith that, even though we as people can go through the very worst of things in the very worst of times, God can always bring us through. And he can always bring, healing and restoration, and in my case, transformation, from victim to victor. And I could never thank God and praise God enough for that. So that's really what I would want the, overall message to be in such a production as that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely help you guys in any way I can.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. We'll see where it goes. And again, I always say God's will be done. I'm so thankful to God that he's called me in this way to work through me to help people. It's the greatest thing in life to know what your purpose is and to know that God actually worked through you to help someone, to free them and transform their life. There's no feeling like it. And so I'm very grateful and thankful to God for that. I'm also grateful and thankful to him for giving me a media platform to be able to do this. And whether it is TV or a show like this with you, Kev Baker, George Norrie, Coast to Coast, whatever it may be, I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, you guys are welcome here anytime. You're like family to me. So.
You better believe it, and I appreciate that. I really do. And I got to tell you, Tim, we should mention also is that what made me think about this is the recent interview with Cheryl Jones.
Yes.
And then her and George Norrie had such a great show together and analyzed. It was very interesting for me because I'm used to doing the interviews live. And, George and I have always been live with each other. But this time, Cheryl Jones, the investigative reporter of Coast to Coast, did a pre-tape with me, pre-recorded interview, and then they presented it on Coast to Coast, and her and George analyzed everything and had a dialogue back and forth. That was so interesting, and I am still getting messages from people who listened to that show who really enjoyed it, so that was amazing as well.
Yeah, that is awesome to have that platform and to have that sort of response to get. That's incredible.
Yeah, and the also want to mention the most recent book that I've written, which is called The Seventh Book. It's amazing, the response, and God put that on me to write it and to put it out there as a free download. So I might as well mention it right now. Anybody that's listening in, if you want to read this book, just visit BillJBean.com and you can contact me from the site. And tell me that you want a PDF of it, and I will respond attaching a PDF of the book for you for free. And so it'll be my pleasure to do so. This is what God has put on me. When God puts something like this on my spirit, I do obey it. And so that's what I did. I wrote the book. I got it out there. People love it. I've got nothing but great reviews on it. And now I'm looking forward to starting the next project, the next book project, which will be Stranger Than Fiction 2, which Travis is always a part of my books, and he'll be a part of this one as well. And he was so incredible with that presentation on the Mothman that I want him to put it into words, into writing in this Stranger Than Fiction 2. We'll have to get you in there as well, Tim. Maybe we could get you to write a little something for that book.
I'd be more than willing to do that. That'd be wonderful.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And people enjoy that as well because in all my other books, it's the stories are coming from me. And that's not a bad thing, but still it's refreshing in a book to have other voices as well, especially when we're talking about the paranormal supernatural. So in the Stranger Than Fiction, the original version, people love that there were so many different voices in that, and they'll love it even more in this one because I'm thoroughly convinced that this version, Stranger Than Fiction 2, will far exceed the first version.
Awesome.
So get your thinking cap on and think of, even like that story you relayed to us about seeing the Mothman in the roadway. Like, you could include that in the book if you wanted to. Whatever you want to do, you're certainly welcome to be a part of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely do that. That's awesome.
But, again, Travis usually writes the forwards for my books. And, but I like having his stories in there as well, especially this Mothman thing, because he is just, of course he's researched it to the nth degree. I mean, he did the documentary on it. And Travis, I'd like for you to talk a little more, and I know we talked about it Sunday, and Tim probably heard it, but I'd like for his listeners to hear a little more about how you put that together.
I was just going to ask him that, Bill.
Well, we're great minds think alike.
Symbiosis, yep. Go ahead, Trav.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, Bill, I think maybe have Kev, I'm sorry, I was just texting Kev Baker, to have Tim maybe do the forward for the book this time. If I'm going to contribute to a chapter, I have no problem with that. Bill's right. I've often done the forward or the intro, but Tim, if you want to do something like that, I would have no problem with that, and even contributing a chapter as well. Mothman, of course, for me has been, we talked Sunday night. I got interested in the supernatural very early as a kid. My dad worked in the coal mines. He worked a lot of evening and night shift. Friday nights, he would come home from the evening shift, which means he was getting home around 11, 12 o'clock at night, and CBS would have CBS late night, and they would show second-run movies that had been in the theaters for a few years. So I remember one of the very first movies I watched with him was The Omen with Gregory Peck from 76, and then we also started watching reruns of Kolchak the Night Stalker. And I was fascinated with Carl Kolchak. In fact, he was a news reporter, and he was always starting out investigating something so boring and so mundane, and it always had some kind of supernatural, paranormal element to it, and then he ended up fighting some type of supernatural entity and always winning. And he was just so inept and so clumsy and just so everyday guy. And I fell in love with that character. Owned the entire season or the entire series on DVD, owned the entire first season of the reboot that they did back in the early 2000s. I owned that one as well. I just loved the whole story there. And so I've always been interested in UFOs and cryptids and the supernatural, the paranormal, the occult, all of that, growing up very Christian, very evangelical. I had a great love of God and a great love of the, I'll say the positive side of that, and then researching the demonic side and the sinister side. And then years ago, 2000, 2001, Charlie McCracken, who passed away last year, had been my business partner, best friend, and the director of the documentary. He and I were in Rachel, Nevada, which is where Area 51 is, and we picked up a book by Jerome Clark, and it was 365 supernatural stories from all over the world. And on the drive back from Rachel to Las Vegas, which is about a 90-minute drive, I'm driving and he's in the passenger seat and he's reading these excerpts and these stories and he's going through the alphabet, and we get to M, and Mothman is there. So he flips over to Mothman, starts reading about it. We realize it's, the events took place in West Virginia. And of course, we're in Virginia, and we're in the southwestern tip of Virginia, which bumps up right to West Virginia. So it's like, we're going to make a mental note of that. And if we ever get the chance, we want to go and check out where this took place and what happened. Well, fast forward a couple of years, 2003, we were in Ashland, Kentucky, shooting a marketing film for a small Bible college. And we stopped at a gas station to get gas and some road snacks and things like that. And Charlie got a map and was looking at it, and we were about 90 minutes from Point Pleasant, West Virginia at that point. So we immediately got in the car. Instead of going back to Virginia, we took 64 to Huntington and then over into Point Pleasant. And we spent the entire day and the rest of the night there, meeting people, talking to them, hearing firsthand accounts. And we just kind of fell in love with the people and the town and the story. And we drove back overnight. We didn't spend the night. We drove back. And on the drive back, we talked about wanting to do a documentary film. And at that point, Mothman had been featured, of course, in John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies. And then I think there had been an Unsolved Mysteries episode that had been dedicated to it. And a couple of segments on those types of things. Monster Quest had done a segment, but never anything feature-length, nothing full-scale documentary investigative journalism approach at that point. So that was 2003. We began working on the project, interviewing people.
All right, what's happening? Is Duck Dynasty or something coming into this as Travis is talking,
I think
or what?
Travis is a popular guy tonight.
What's going on? What?
Keep hearing this.
Oh, yeah, my phone's going off. I keep getting messages and Facebook notifications. It's what happens when you manage 3 radio stations and all those notifications come to one phone.
We were hearing it, and I said, okay, this is either Tim is getting all these things going, or Travis has all this going as he's
Not me,
speaking.
It's me. I apologize. I didn't realize you guys could hear it. I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologize, but keep on. I mean, this is, again, fascinating stuff, and I know that, Tim, I know your listeners are loving everything that he's saying right now.
Go ahead, Travis.
We started doing the recreations and shooting, and we spent 6 years doing that documentary film, funded entirely out of our own pockets. We had a couple of small investors that helped. So it was Charlie McCracken, myself, and my cousin Matthew Fleming, and took 6 years to produce. Very proud of the finished piece. Actually, the reason, as I mentioned early on, the reason I went back to Point Pleasant was because my daughter wanted to go. And last year, almost a year ago, it'd be a year on the 18th, Charlie McCracken passed away in his sleep. And since then, I have been toying with an idea, and we talked about it Sunday night, and it's something I'm moving forward with, and that is to actually re-release Dark Wings, the Mothman Chronicles, and include some additional bonus material, and include a section dedicated to Charlie with photographs, and I would like to shoot some interviews with Matthew and myself, and talking about him and talking about the process of doing the documentary film, and re-release that and get the story back out there. A lot of places and a lot of shows have started going back. Josh Gates did a segment on Mothman, went to Point Pleasant. BuzzFeed, Supernatural, Paranormal, Unsolved, which my daughter introduced me to, Shane and Ryan, they went to Point Pleasant. And, a lot of folks have continued to go back and research it, but they've never, and this is not in any way a negative comment about those shows, because I understand reality TV shows and how you produce and how you edit and things like that. But the emphasis just isn't on what the real story is. And for us, the real story in Point Pleasant was how this town of 5,000 has continued to survive, and how these people's lives were altered mentally and emotionally and spiritually and psychologically and socially. And the cultural and the economic impact that something like this sighting had on this little tiny river town. And that was what we fell in love with, was the resilience of this town and these people, that they keep fighting back, they keep going forward, they keep moving forward. They started the Mothman Festival in 2001, on the heels of 9/11. 2 weeks later, they had the first Mothman Festival. Thousands of people from all over the world showed up to this, and I presented several years there on Sunday to close out the festival on the religious and spiritual implications of the Mothman sightings and what that means. these winged entities that people keep seeing throughout history, throughout culture, throughout race, throughout religion. They're there. They've been seen. We've adorned cathedrals with these entities. And the Cathedral of Notre Dame is surrounded by gargoyles. Those are nothing but flying entities that resemble Mothman. These entities, these winged entities, exist. They've been in our subconscious for millennia, and they're coming back to the forefront again. And so for me, it's an exciting journey. It's an exciting story to tell, and I'm very passionate about it. And I passed a little bit of that passion along to my daughter, which cracks me up. She actually came on the show Sunday night. Isn't she? She's amazing when she's talking. Yeah. She starts telling stories.
She's fantastic.
It was funny.
She's got a bright future ahead for her, for sure.
I had people messaging me while she was on the show saying she needs her own podcast. She needs to do a documentary. She needs to narrate something. I'm like, yeah, I know. She does.
Absolutely. And so that was amazing too, Tim, having her, Leah, to come on for a little while with us. And it was great. I mean, she has a similar intellect to her dad, and she's very well spoken, and she is very, very intelligent. I was very impressed with her.
Yeah, she takes after her dad.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no question. But go ahead, Travis. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't know about that. I mean, she does have a mother with a PhD in communication, so
that'll work too.
I can only take 50% credit. So.
God bless her mom.
Travis, do you think that with everything going on in our society, do you think that Mothman will make another appearance at some point soon? In West Virginia?
I'm afraid so.
Yeah.
I really am. I have been watching. People have asked me, have you been watching what's going on in Chicago? I have recently. We talked about this Sunday night when we were doing the documentary film. The hotbed of activity for Mothman sightings at that point was Wise County, Texas, which is where Aurora, Texas is located, which I'm sure, Tim, you're aware. In 1897, there was a supposed UFO crash there, so 50 years before Roswell. This site is in the early 2000s was having a great deal of Mothman sightings, and then not long after that, there were these just raging plane fires that were devastating the entire countryside there in that part of Texas. I mean, all of these forest fires that were just raging out of control, and then Mothman was never seen again. Now, for the past, I want to say probably 4 or 5 years, Mothman has been predominantly seen in the Chicago area, and that has me a little worried for the Chicago area. Something is going to happen there very soon, unfortunately, if the pattern holds true, that when Mothman is seen, there's a tragedy and then he disappears. And we talked Sunday night, and Bill's right. I posited the theory at one of the Mothman festivals that there wasn't a Mothman, but that there were multiple entities, because there were countless sightings over a 13-month period, hundreds of eyewitnesses, different parts of the area there in West Virginia, miles and miles apart, that were reporting seeing something at the exact same time. And there were variations in the height and in the coloring, but the description was basically the same: a 7 to 9 foot tall winged biped with glowing red eyes. So I'm not so convinced that there was a Mothman or that there was one singular entity. And what we discussed on Sunday was, from the biblical or the theological and spiritual side of things, you have demons and angels that are given principality. They're principalities, powers, thrones, the different choirs of the angels. And I'm not so sure that what was dubbed Mothman is not a demonic being that has been given principality over a certain location. And when that principality is seen, then certain tragic events follow in the wake.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I totally agree.
Shoot, I lost my train of thought there. Have you done any research or even heard of the Butler Gargoyle here locally, Travis?
You guys mentioned it when I was on the show last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
haven't heard
looked into
about
it a little
this
bit
Butler
last
gargoyle.
year,
What
but
is
I haven't researched it.
Okay. What's that, Bill?
What is the story on this Butler gargoyle?
People have seen it between here and East Brady, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And
What does it look like? Is it just a smaller type of creature? It's not like a Bigfoot, right?
it's similar to Mothman. It has all the features of Mothman. It, it's
Wow.
8-9 feet tall, winged creature with red eyes. And
Isn't that interesting?
feet.
Yeah, I never heard of that creature. Have you? Do you have communication with Stan Gordon?
I do.
So he probably knows all. He's probably investigated a lot of those reports, then, right?
Yeah, and Brian Seach, I think, has followed up on some of that as well.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was on a show with Brian last year, and we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting, and again. Stan Gordon and I made an appearance together in Pittsburgh, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, again, somewhere around in there. Mm-hmm. And he gave me a couple of his books, and I read them and found them to be very interesting. Certainly a very knowledgeable guy, and he has put in a lot of time in really going all over PA and logging these cases in. I was very impressed. With the amount of his case files, and some of the things that he mentioned in there were very consistent with not only a lot of the Mothman reports, but also with reports of people seeing the Bigfoot creatures coming in and out of UFOs.
Yeah, right, for sure.
I found that to be very interesting also.
Mm-hmm. Travis, how far is Morgan City from Point Pleasant? It's just right across the river, isn't it?
Morgan City.
I guess it would be West Virginia.
Or Morgantown.
You mean Morgantown?
Morgantown.
Morgantown. Yes,
yeah.
Morgantown is not very far from. It's not even across the river. It's not very far from Point Pleasant at all. As a matter of fact.
It seemed like that whole area is just infested with paranormal activity.
We talked about that Sunday night. That was one of the directions we were headed because the Dark Wings documentary was meant to kind of be a springboard for some other documentary films. And one of the things that we were looking at was almost this Bermuda Triangle in West Virginia. We had Point Pleasant, and then you had Mineral Springs, which is where Indrid Cold was making his appearance, and then you had Flatwoods, where the Flatwoods Monster had appeared in the early 60s. And you can draw a very rough triangle from those 3 points of destination. And there seemed to be something about West Virginia in the 60s that it was attracting this spiritual activity.
And again, now think about this. Because in that area, again, which is not that far from Western PA, so you have that area again being covered. What is it about that area, from where Tim is all the way into those areas there, what is it? Is it some type of big portal? Is it, and I think these types of things exist all over the world.
Yeah.
So, you have to ask yourself, what is it that would draw and attract something like that? And so many different things.
Yeah, there's been even sightings of the Mothman type creature in Ohio. So I mean, it seems to be in that.
And the Bigfoot is as well. What they call the Ohio Grassman.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, again, these things they all kind of it's just connecting the dots again. Mm-hmm. So Travis, go ahead. I keep cutting him off.
No, you're not. I mean, but we talked Sunday night. These are entities and things that we have seen throughout history. We talked about Spring Hill Jack from Victorian England, which was described as a tall man in a black hooded coat with red glowing eyes, and he would attack young women, and then he would jump off and spring away. And there have been ways to discount it as being a kangaroo or some wild animal, but the descriptions are very much that of Mothman. You see, we talked about the Egyptian culture. The Egyptians had the Sphinx, this winged entity. The Assyrians had these creatures that had the head of a man, the body of a lion, the legs and face of a bull, the wings of an eagle. The Sumerians had the utuku, which are a group of gods and demons with reptilian bodies and eagles' heads and wings. Native Americans had the thunderbird. You also have in the Lakota tribe the Wakingan, which are people or things that fly. We have in Judeo-Christianity, you've got angels, you've got demons, you've got cherubim, seraphim, winged fiery serpents. Native American, Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent god that provides wisdom and knowledge. These winged entities have been around, as I said, for millennia. And, John Keel posited that they were ultra-terrestrials, things that were existing on in the same dimension but on a different plane, or that they were possibly things from another dimension that only those with a heightened sense of spiritual awakening could see.
I totally agree. And again, Travis is absolutely correct that this is something, and most people don't realize this, because in our current state of affairs, most people, they don't take the time to study or research anything, and they're not going to pick up a book and do any kind of research like that. So, I mean, here we are.
Exactly.
It's just very sad. And again, what Travis is saying is absolutely, he's laying out things that you can find if you do research and study. These are all true and documented things. And yet, again, most people today are not. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've had a discussion with somebody, and they're so certain about what they're saying and so passionate about it. And I said, well, where did you get this information? Do you read books? Or no, I don't read. I'm not into reading. I can't. Okay, so where are you getting the information from? It just boggles my mind that people. I know everybody's busy. But people will not take the time to read or research anything anymore. They just want the instant thing, and then all of a sudden that becomes a narrative, and man, they're on it.
Yeah, they'll watch lamestream media, but they won't do the research for themselves.
Correct, and that's what it always comes back to. Well, I saw it. They said it right on TV.
Yeah.
They said so. There you go. So you saw it on TV, and it must be true because they said it on TV.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I run into that all the time. Like I mentioned in passing, I'm managing 3 radio stations, and I've got a news director, and even he vets his sources like a pro. I mean, this man has been doing it for decades. But every now and then, something just kind of passes by, slips past the radar, and I was giving him grief the other day. He posted a news story because we're near Knox County, Kentucky, which is also very near Knox County, Tennessee. And he ran a news story from Knox County, Tennessee, instead of Knox County, Kentucky. And our phones blew up, our email blew up, everything. And people like this, wanting, correct it, take this down. You need to say this, you need to do that. And I'm like, he's like, I got it from another news source. They had gotten it from another news source. It had been vetted 3 times, but it had still just passed by the radar. And because we do, all that we care about, Bill, are headlines. We see the headlines, and that's it.
Yeah,
we see that first sentence or 2 sentences. We don't see anything else. We read that, and then we go on about our business, and we formed our decision.
But those
we formed
headlines,
our mind. We made our decision.
Those headlines can be very misleading, though, because you read a headline, you think
it's
going to be one thing, and it's totally something different. So.
Well, but again, that's not going to stop people from doing just that. And then they have all of a sudden, instead of going beyond that and doing their own research, they're going to take that and run with it and say, there it is.
For sure.
It just, again, I can't tell people what to do, and nor do I want to tell people what to do. But my suggestion would be that if you want to increase your wisdom and knowledge, A, go to God and ask Him to do so. B, do your part and start picking up some books. Start reading some history books. We can't really know where we're going unless we know where we've been. And so it's very important to study history and understand what has taken place in the past and how life is like a giant wheel. So this is the best way that I can explain Yahweh's creation of the world in part. And that is to equate it as a gigantic wheel. Almost think of that Price is Right wheel, that goes round and round. And it clicks into these different historical points, and history does repeat itself, and history is repeating itself again here and now.
Yeah. You guys ready to take a break?
Absolutely. We're whatever you want to do.
All right. You're listening to The Supernatural Realm on WCETFM.com, also WCETradio.com. We'll be back with more with Travis Shortt and Bill Bean. We'll be right back right after this.
You're listening to only the best internet radio station in the world. No, the universe.
WCET-FM.
Carolina Radio, Columbia.
WCET-FM invites you to join the hosts and listeners alike in our new chat room located on WCETFM.com. Your talk station and now your chat location. Just go to WCETFM.com and click the chat and listen page. It's that easy, so hurry up and we will see you there, my friends. So go to www.WCETFM.com.
WCET-FM says size does matter. We have a large variety of free radio archives for you to go back and listen to. Size does matter, and WCET-FM's archives are huge, with shows like Money and Change, Bare Knuckled, Kindness Beyond the Veil, Supernatural Realm, Show Us Don't Tell Us, The Red Pill Reality Show, The Prostitute Podcast, Dinner with the Klings, In Contact with Dr. Rand, Uncensored, and even our flagship, Late Night in the Midlands, all free. So don't hurt yourself because it's really big. Go big or go home. WCETFM.com. Your home for talk radio and free radio archives. Hey, late nighters, you can keep up with all things WCET-FM and L&M by joining our mailing list. Just go to the bottom of the homepage and subscribe. You'll get everything from guest info and show info and other important station-related information. So go sign up now. WCETFM.com. WCET-FM has just released the app. So now you can take WCET Radio everywhere you go. Just go to the Google Play Store and search WCET-FM. That's WCET space FM and install it. Then it's ready to go. Oh, and did I mention it's free? Well, it is. WCET-FM. We got the app. Late nighters and all those who listen to WCET Radio.
Listen up.
The shop is here, and you can order WCET merch right now and show your friends and your neighbors you're awake by wearing one of our many shirts, including our Stop the Censorship shirt. That one is a hot seller, so get yours while supplies last. We have coffee mugs, clocks, so you always know what time it is, books, mouse pads, all your WCET accessories. Just go to WCETFM.com and click the shop tab. That's WCETFM.com and get the shopping.
I listen to WCET every day because it's the most tremendous radio station in America.
You heard the man. Nothing better. WCET-FM, talk radio like no other.
Imagine, if you will, a country that frees all of its prisoners, however, threatens churchgoers with fines and jail. Imagine a country, if you will, shuts down all the schools and then closes all the parks. You have entered the new America.
And welcome back to Supernatural Realm right here on WCETFM.com. You can find our show archived just about everywhere, including Spotify, TuneIn, and WCETFM.com. You guys still with me there? You didn't get lost, did you?
Still here with you.
Okay.
No. I've been glued to my phone. There's no way I'm leaving. This is a great show.
I appreciate that, Travis.
These guys are great.
Well, look, we've heard the thing going off there continuously, so he's doing something right there, Tim, so this is good.
Yeah, I checked you out on Facebook there, Travis. You're doing a good job there streaming us, so thank you.
Well, I had to drop it. My internet connectivity was going in and out, which Bill will tell you happens when I talk about Mothman. There's always some type of electronic or internet interference. He and I have had conversations on the phones. The phones have gone dead.
Wow.
I did a radio show with Naked Zombie Radio out of Australia a few years ago, 2-hour segment.
Wow.
And he was broadcasting and recording. The broadcast segment was fine. All 2 hours broadcast, no problem. First hour recorded, second hour did not, and for no apparent reason. Just did not record. Had me come back on and redo the whole show just so we could get that second hour. But Brad Scott there in Australia, check him out. He's relaunched it on YouTube as Naked Zombie Radio on YouTube as well. He's a great guy, or I guess I have to call him a great mate. He's in Australia. He's a mate, not a guy. He's great. But check him out. He's got some interesting stuff.
Awesome. I think there's a connection between you and the Mothman, Travis, because he seems to be interfering with your electronics over there.
Man, I tell you, they're for a while, Lauren Coleman, and I know you know who Lauren Coleman is.
Mm-hmm.
He had a website up. I don't even know if it's still up. It was the Curse of Mothman, and it listed everyone who had something tragic happen to them once they started investigating Mothman. And at that time, Charlie McCracken and I were at the top of the list because he, while shooting the documentary, he came down very ill. The doctors could not diagnose what was wrong. He ended up in the hospital. He had all of the symptoms of malaria, but he was testing negative for it. His organs started shutting down. It was a very scary, dangerous time for about 2 weeks, and he finally rallied and came out of it. But filming, or actually producing and editing, we crashed 2 major editing suites while producing that documentary. They just crashed. We lost the finished piece. We had to go back and start all over. And that happened twice in the 6 years. One of the reasons it took 6 years to produce it, because those aren't cheap to replace. And when you're funding a project yourself, every dime counts. So, and there the phone goes again. Did you guys hear it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If anybody wants to call in and talk to you, Travis, or talk to Bill, they can call here in the studio if they want to.
I know, right? Just call into the show and talk. Make your comments.
Yeah. The number here in the studio in Butler is 724-602-2826. That's 724-602-2826. Give us a call.
And Travis, I think it's worth mentioning again about Indrid Cole.
That is an interesting piece of the story. If you watch the movie, The Mothman Prophecies, with Richard Gere and Laura Linney, they merged Mothman and Indrid Cole into one event, one sighting, one incident. That's not the case. Indrid Cole was a different set of instances that were taking place in West Virginia around the same time, and John Kill was investigating them, but it was in Mineral Springs, West Virginia, and there was a gentleman by the name of Woodrow Durenberger there, and he was having interactions with this individual that referred to itself as Indrid Cole. That was the name that he gave. And Durenberger, in a series of interviews, described Cole as being a fairly handsome gentleman with Middle Eastern features, black hair slicked back into a ponytail, and he would kind of taunt Durenberger with these prophecies, things that were going to happen, things that were going to come to pass. And the the way that things transpired is that this really impacted Durenberger's life and impacted Keel to the point that Keel was getting these messages. And if you remember, there's one particular instance in the movie, The Mothman Prophecies, where that the John Klein character, played by Richard Gere, receives a message that there's going to be a great tragedy on the Ohio River. And that was actually a prophecy that was put forth by Indrid Cold, and it did turn out to be the collapse of the Silver Bridge, even though it was not Mothman that made that particular prophecy, but this entity that was referring itself as Indrid Cold. There were also two other entities that were appearing at the same time. One called itself Apple, A-P-O-L, and the other called itself Princess Leia, L-E-I-A. So there were these three individuals that were roaming around Mineral Springs, West Virginia, and very, very bizarre stories that surrounded them. And of course, individuals have drawn a correlation between the entity Apol, A-P-O-L, and Apollyon, or Abaddon, the demon of the pit of hell listed in the book of Revelation.
Yeah. And then, as Travis was talking about on Sunday, the connection from entities like that to the Men in Black, that's something else that's worth mentioning again, Travis.
Absolutely. The Men in Black appearance there in Point Pleasant, individuals that were almost translucent in color, long extended digits, many of them having 6 digits instead of 5, so 6 fingers instead of 5, and they had a bizarre preoccupation with time. They would want to know what time it was, what season it was, and they would often leave individuals with the phrase, "We will see you in time." And it has led many individuals to believe, are they time travelers, or are they spiritual entities that when they are coming through that veil from the other realm to this, they are lost and not knowing where they are supposed to be? And if so, what exact time are they looking for? Is it the time that Bill has been talking about, where there is the mark of the beast, the coming end times? And that is a theory among those that approach Mothman and these sightings from an eschatological standpoint, or the end times prophecy standpoint.
Yeah, it's weird that these Men in Black always seem to appear after a UFO crash, or something like Mothman. It's almost makes you wonder that maybe they're interdimensional. Yeah.
And there were reported sightings of Men in Black in Point Pleasant along this entire time when Mothman was being seen, from November 15th of 66 to December 15th of 67, to the point that the last reported sightings concerning Mothman were December 14th, 1967, at the side of the bridge, where Men in Black were seen looking at the bridge structure from underneath, as if they were inspecting or planting something or making sure that something was going to happen.
It's interesting.
And Tim, for you, think Kecksburg. With that,
yes.
There were Men in Black around there and military threatening people. And so it further corroborates what you're saying about these entities being around in situations such as that.
Yeah, I actually know somebody that her father had actually seen that UFO right before it crashed in Kecksburg.
Wow.
He had a first-hand experience on that.
It's funny that you guys mentioned Kecksburg, because I have drawn the comparison between Kecksburg and Point Pleasant, because if you guys remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Bryant Gumbel did a sci-fi special where he did a town hall with Kecksburg. And he brought everybody into a town hall, and half of the town believed that a UFO had crashed, the other half didn't. And you may not remember it, you may not have seen it, but it was a sci-fi channel original. It was a 2-hour special. Yeah, he did the investigation, and then he brought the town people in. That was the experience we had in Point Pleasant. You would talk to some people, and they would deny that anything had ever happened. I said Sunday night, we stopped, very first day up there, we stopped at the tourism office to get maps and brochures and ask about Mothman. They laughed at us and said, we don't talk about that here. If you want to talk about Mothman, go on Main Street. You'll find some crazy people down there that will talk to you.
It's amazing.
And we did. Not crazy people, but we did find people that were willing to talk about it. And so there were those that believed it happened. There were those that believed it didn't. They would deny it. But the people who did see Mothman, those who experienced it, it forever changed their lives. It altered them at a cellular level that I can't even begin to put into words.
It would almost have to make them more spiritual after experiencing something like that, you would think.
Well, the problem is, spiritual drives you one of two directions. You can either be driven towards the light or be driven away from it. And for most of them, they were driven away from it.
Yeah, I guess that would
and Bill, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, I was done.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's one of two ways. That's what happens.
Yeah, and it's very sad. And again, Travis had reported in some of those cases, Tim, that people were really down and out and just took that dark path and really ended up in a bad place in their lives. And it's so sad and tragic. And I do agree with him that situations and circumstances such as that, or any type of paranormal, supernatural event, or prolonged, whether that be some type of demonic stronghold or family bloodline curse or whatever it may be, if the person doesn't get help and doesn't get that broken off of them, well, then it's going to end up disastrous, and they're going to meet a very, very bad way. And again, I can't tell you how many times I've encountered people like this during the course of my career. And it's very sad and tragic, and it is very rewarding and fulfilling for me, again, in knowing that God actually worked through me to help a person like that.
Yeah, thankfully, the majority of the people that I've had on the show who have had demonic entities and infestations in their home, it has made them really seek out God and drew them closer to Him.
Praise God.
But as you said, the opposite can happen as well, and it does.
Yeah, and what happens is when a spiritual attack in that type of that type of nature takes place, it's all about pulling that frequency and vibration down. And when you're pulling that person further and further down, lower and lower, they're wide open for attack. And so the battle plan is to employ bully tactics through fear and intimidation, and then divide and conquer. And so when you have created that level of division and isolation, and the person is beaten down so badly that they give up the will to live and fight, that's how demonic possession takes place.
Right.
So it's all very much related. It's all connect the dots. And so pardon the pun, but the truth is stranger than fiction.
That's probably why the title of the book came about. Huh?
Exactly right. So, but go ahead, Travis. You were rolling on some good points again there.
No, that's not pardon the pun. That's pardon the plug. I mean, you're plugging your book that's getting ready to come out. That's not a pun.
Yeah, no, it is a plug. And it's again, I'm excited about this second book that is going to soon be in the works, and it won't take me long to put it together. It never seems to take me very long. Once God puts something on me, a project, the way that I write is that once I commit to the project, then I set the goal before me that I have to sit down 2 to 4 hours every day and or night, whether I feel like it or not, until the project is complete. It's the only way you're going to get something like that done. I've talked with other people in the past, I'm writing a book. Okay, well, great, wonderful, congratulations. I'm going to start it next week. And then the week comes and goes, and, I'm writing a book. Okay, well, great. Yeah, I'm going to start that next month. And then that comes and goes. And before you know it, 6 months have gone by, and that person hasn't started anything. So that's the only way that I can not be that type of person, is that once I commit to the project, then that's it, I'm locked in. And no matter how I feel or what I have going on, I have to stay committed to that project until it is completed. So, but it makes it easier for me in these types of books because I have contributors. And so that really makes it a lot easier. I still have to take that and shape it into a presentation, but it really does make it a lot easier for me from a writing standpoint that that I have people that I can rely on that will contribute, and then I can just put it together. So it makes it much, much better.
And speaking of projects, let's talk about your appearance on Ghost Nation for a few minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that was very interesting, and the bottom line is I'm very thankful that the homeowner is doing well now. Praise God for that. But I have to tell you, it was that place. I could feel very strong evil in the entire area. So the place, the Fonte Flora plantation, is in the middle of nowhere. They're in near and abouts, probably a half hour from this little town called Blair, South Carolina. And I recall leaving the hotel and going over for the shoot, and I'm just getting near the place. You could feel the evil and the negativity. And I purposely rode past. There was a driveway. I would have had to have made a left to go down this dirt road driveway to get to this mansion. But I continued to go straight for about 3 miles. And it was nothing but forest and swamps. And I'm just looking and I'm thinking, wow, this would be an ideal place for Bigfoot and for UFOs as well, and anything under the sun. Well, come to find out, I go back and I do the shoot. Everything went great. Big thank you to Jason Halls and Steve and everybody there. They were all great. They treated me first class. Wonderful people. And I'm thankful to God that I did go there because I was needed there. And God worked through me to bring blessing and peace to that property and that home and the homeowner. And I'm thankful for that. But after the shoot was over with, a local historian, Dave Sprinks, told me, now I didn't say anything to him, he started telling me stories, supernatural stories about the home and the homeowner, and then also told me accounts of a 9-foot tall Bigfoot being seen right by the back shed on the edge of the wood line, and then he just simply turned and walked into the wood line. And then another occasion, a large disc UFO hovering over the property one night there. So, I mean, all the ingredients are there. Very much like the Point Pleasant area there. I mean, it was similar, very similar, same type of deal. And I find it uncanny that some of these places, for whatever reasons, seem to be a magnet for paranormal supernatural phenomena. And interestingly enough, this area is probably, I want to say, 20 minutes south, or it very well may be a part of the Sumter National Forest. And another interesting thing is when I flew in for the shoot, I had to go to Charlotte, and I flew into Charlotte Airport, and they had a rent-a-car for me, and I got the rent-a-car and drove nearly 2 hours from Charlotte to this location. And I recall driving back after the shoot, and then the next day I was going back to the airport to fly back home, and I was going through this Sumter National Forest, and there are hardly any cars on the road. It's in the middle of nowhere, and I'm looking at tree breaks, and I'm looking at these teepee-looking things that the Bigfoot creatures create. I'm seeing all of this from the road, looking back, because the leaves were still bare off the trees, so you could see into the forest. And I'm seeing some of these things, and I'm going, wow, I just confirmed everything that I felt and everything that Dave Spinks was telling me.
Wow. Yeah, it seemed like, were you getting impressions when you were approaching this location, Bill?
Yeah, right off the bat. As soon as I got in the area, I felt a very heavy presence of evil, and also felt it when I went on the property and into the mansion as well. You could really feel it. And I guess there were maybe, I want to say, 7 cameramen and they were amazing. I mean, they flowed with me. Usually when you're doing a shoot like that, it's very difficult to be authentic because they've got to stop and set up for this and for that, so now if I'm trying to be authentic in binding and rebuking and casting this garbage out, you can't do it because they have to stop and break down and move here. But these guys were really exceptional that they captured me doing this without any breaks and saying, hey, well, let's take a minute. We got to get into here. They just flowed with me everywhere I went. So it was, they did an outstanding job of capturing the authenticity of God working through me to perform this exorcism and deliverance over this home and the property and everything. So I give them big props for really being top-notch professionals. And I have to say, I've been on a lot of TV shoots. That has to be maybe the best out of all of the ones that I've done as far as how smooth it went. And because of the authenticity, everything was done in one take. I've been on other TV shoots where they stop you after one word and say, well, let's try this word and let's do it this way. And it becomes a nightmare in that they want to do the scene over and over and over again. And that is, it wears on somebody like me because I'm authentic and I want to be captured in my authenticity, and that would mean that it should be done in one take because we are capturing something authentic.
Yeah, the episode was excellent. It reminds me of the old days when Jason and Grant were doing the original, the first episodes of Ghost Hunters. It was very authentic then, and it's very authentic now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had a great appreciation for Jason and that crew after that, and again, they all treated me very, very well. And so again, and it was Jason himself that reached out to me and said, "Bill, I know you're busy, but I really need your help with something." And so we went back and forth and discussed the case, and then he brought in one of the producers that contacted me, and we started putting everything together. I adjusted my schedule. And next thing you know, I'm flying down there, and that's the way it happened.
That's awesome. Travis, we got about roughly 10 minutes. Is there things you want to say in closing, or anything you'd like to get out there to our listeners, both you and Bill?
Honestly, what I... sorry, my phone is screwing up. And no, it's not people blowing me up. It's just a stupid Android instead of an iPhone. What I would encourage individuals to keep, checking out Bill's page especially. There's always something going on with his deliverances and his activity. I plan on launching a couple of different websites in the coming weeks. The re-release of Dark Wings is going to be one of those. And I want people to be able to get a copy of that. And there's going to be some other things as well. We're going to do a limited release of the movie poster. I had a couple of sample copies printed up by a gentleman in London, Kentucky, Minuteman Press, Gary Conley. Printed up a few for me. They look great. We're going to be able to offer those to individuals as well as a few other things. But definitely, if you're interested in the Mothman, if you get the chance to go to Point Pleasant, it is an interesting little town full of history, not just Mothman, but American Revolutionary War history, Native American history, and of course Mothman. Visit the Mothman Museum. Check out MothmanMuseum.com. Check out MothmanFestival.com. Jeff Walmsley is the individual who started both of those, paying some patronage to those websites, and order some things if you can. If you get to the town, buy some things from the museum. Other than that, I would say if you're interested in Mothman, check out Jeff's books. He's got Mothman Behind the Red Eyes. There's a couple of great books I posted to Facebook a little earlier on Sunday night. People were asking me about some other books that dealt with Mothman. Linda Godfrey, who wrote the Beast of Bray Road, she has a book called American Monsters, A History of Monster Lore, Legends, and Sightings in America. And she breaks it down by land, sea, and air. And she has a whole section on Mothman. Nick Redfern has The Monster Files,
which he released several years ago, has several different chapters concerning flying entities. But it's The Monster Files by Nick Redfern, a look inside government secrets, classified documents, and bizarre creatures and extraordinary animals. Great source of material on not just Mothman, but other cryptids and other weird entities that have been manifesting themselves since 1947.
Awesome. Yeah, I would like to reach out to Nick Redfern, maybe have him on the show with us as well. So maybe I can.
I will put you in touch. I will put you in touch with his publicist.
Oh, great! That'd be awesome. Bill.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to interview Nick several times. He is a great interview.
Yeah, he's been on TV and everything. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of good things to say. So, Bill.
Well, I want to thank you again, brother, for having me on. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on with you. It was so great for Travis to have been with us in this. It just made it that much better. And I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in and watching or listening tonight. I truly appreciate it, and I know Tim does as well. And if you are out there and you're having problems, spiritual problems, and whatever that may entail, if you're just in a bad place in your life, or you feel like you are cursed, or you've got some kind of block or attachment, or if you're under demonic attack, whatever the case may be, don't hesitate. I'm very, very busy, but never too busy to help somebody. And you can reach me at BillJBean.com, and you can email me directly from the site. And I'm very pleased to announce, Tim, that I have a new site that has been built by my good friend Steve Hodgson. And we're going to be launching that soon. And I'm really looking forward to that. He's done an outstanding job. So that'll be something that's coming soon. But for now, I'm just absolutely probably as busy or more busy than ever. So many people are coming to me for help now. And it's because of the times that we're in, because the frequency and vibration is lower due to everything that's taking place. So there's a lot of people that are in a bad way spiritually. And so I'm just constantly busy, but that's okay. Again, for me, it's the greatest thing to know what my purpose in life is, and to know that God's actually working through me to help people. And I want to thank everybody out there also for your donations to my ministry. I truly appreciate that. I don't ask anything of anybody. I'm the person I like to give, and I have a hard time receiving. But I really, truly appreciate that. And all of you know who you are. And I thank you very much for it, and much love and God bless to you and everyone out there. So again, Tim, thank you so much, and I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, like I said before, these are the fastest 2 hours on radio.
It's they always go super fast. And I knew with Travis being with us that it would go even faster, and sure enough, it has.
Yeah. Virginia Rose Centrillo was going to join and ask you questions, Bill, but unfortunately,
sure.
Yeah, she her niece was in an accident this evening, and she was unable to make it on the show to speak with you. But,
well, I hope that her niece is okay, and I'll pray for her right now. Father, I ask that you please bless Virginia's niece, and I pray that she's okay, and I pray that you'll bless her and heal her and restore her back to good health quickly by your mighty power and your mighty and holy name. In Jesus' name, may it be so. And then maybe the next time, Tim, she can join us and whatever she wants to ask. I'm sorry that I missed you guys the last time.
Yeah.
I had 2 deliverances in that night, and I tried to get done as quickly as I could, and I just couldn't get done fast enough to get back in time with you. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to have talked with her at that point.
It's almost like it's meant to be, because Travis is here with us, and he helped fill the space and some time, and it's been wonderful talking to you, Travis. And
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So everything happens for a reason.
I am a great space filler.
Well, you're a top-notch
one of my areas of expertise.
You are, and he's got the greatest voice in radio, and so it's always good for him to be a part of any type of thing like this.
Yeah, Travis, I didn't mean that negatively at all. I mean, it's
No, I know you didn't. I know. I'm cool with my role in the universe. And Bill, it's what's funny is Bill's right. I mean, he and I have been doing these for probably almost a decade now.
Oh yeah.
And there have been times when he was booked for a show, he couldn't go on and talk about his own book. So I had to go do it for him. I would go and talk about Dark Force and what was going on. And so, I mean, we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
It's almost like the universe had other plans because Virginia couldn't make it, and you were here, and Bill recommended you be here tonight, and it just worked. Everything just worked out.
It did, and Virginia actually just sent me the last buzz on my phone. If you guys heard it, was her sending a friend request, so I just accepted that. So there it is, Virginia.
We hear it, yeah. And again, I pray that God heals her niece very quickly, and look forward to meeting her in the future and talking with her and whatever questions she may have. Looking forward to those as well.
Yeah. So Virginia sent you a friend request, Travis, and you were saying.
We heard the Duck Dynasty thing, so
did.
yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, we were. You were. Virginia said that. You said that Virginia actually sent you a friend request. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I had accepted it. So looking forward to getting to know her. But very sorry about the accident this evening, and hope everyone is okay and on a road to recovery.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's been great. I got to give the server to Michael here in a few minutes. There are some changes. That are going to be taking place here at WCTFM.com, and those of us here are very excited about those changes. And unfortunately, I can't reveal those changes yet, but I will in the coming weeks. So I'm very excited about it.
Well, we're excited for you, and we're looking forward to hearing it, and looking forward to coming back on again with you. And maybe the next time Travis and I could come back together, and there'll be four of us doing this. So whatever you want, Tim, however you want to do it, it's great with me, and it's just always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on, and it's been fantastic talking.
Absolutely, we enjoyed it, and we will be talking again soon. And again, thank everybody out there, and much love, and God bless all of you.
Yep. Good night, everybody, and be sure to tune in Thursday, same time, same bat channel, at 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on WCTFM.com. Good night, everybody.